first round. Now tap that screen, tap it, tap that screen, yeah, tap it. It's your warm-up routine. Gang Gremlins on the scene. Gang Gremlins on the scene. Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Welcome Gaga and Grumps to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says welcome gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat, grab your daily heart, claim your points and prepare to play.
Welcome Grumps to Wordle with Gaga.
Gang Gremlins, come and let's go. Now tap that screen, tap it, tap that screen, yeah, tap it. Let's see those team stickers flow. Gang Gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen. Now tap that screen. Now tap that screen. Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says treasure box up if you need a coin for your daily heart.
Welcome Gremlins to the Game Grotto. Welcome Gremlins to the Game Grotto. Welcoming guys, settle down. Grab your heart,
Grumps says it Oscar.
share us round.
Welcome Oscar to Wordle with Gaga.
Tap that screen, yeah, tap it. It's your warm-up routine.
Gaga Grumps says welcome gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat, grab your daily heart, claim your points and prepare to play.
Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Oscar says it Grumps, help.
Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Oscar says hello.
Now tap that screen. Tap it.
Gaga Grumps says hey there Oscar, how goes
Gang
it?
Gremlins, come and let's go. Now tap that screen.
Oscar says my autocorrect is so bad lol.
Let's see those team stickers flow.
Grumps says it Oscar, you being abducted.
Gang Gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen.
Gaga Grumps says haha.
Now tap that screen.
Grumps says it Rita Haya.
Now tap that screen. Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Grumps says it Samrat hey there.
Oscar says at Grumps, someone said they would do my Wordle every day so I don't keep forgetting lol. Samrat says at Grumps hi.
Welcome Eva to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says it Oscar. Grumps says it Eva 67, welcome back.
We would be honored.
Gaga Grumps says who is ready to play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says hey there Samrat. Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart Oscar.
Welcome Blue to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says hey there Blue, welcome.
Grumps says it Blue Haya.
Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Grumps says I see.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. C. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Welcome PH to Wordle with Gaga.
Like a thorn, tapping don't stop like a thorn. Who will be crowned like a thorn? Gremlin renowned like a thorn. Fingers on fire like a thorn. Gremlins don't tire like a thorn. Hearts be flying like a thorn.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says hey there PH7.
Grumps says at PH7 welcome back.
Gaga Grumps says your word starting with C please Grumps.
Grumps says count. Welcome Roni Crow to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says count you got.
Grumps says at Roni_Crow hi.
Gaga Grumps says he wasn't when the song stopped either.
Grumps says at Milo Heya. Welcome to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says at Whoopsie Daisy hi.
Gaga Grumps says I clicked my finger like this when the song stopped for me.
Oscar says Grumps was at top at the end of the song. Grumps says at Mr. Trouble Jeffrey Hartman's hi.
Gaga Grumps says Whitehouse in the chat.
Grumps says awesome stuff.
Oscar says prime.
Welcome UMER to Wordle with Gaga.
Ewer says sperm.
Gaga Grumps says prime fits.
Grumps says at UMER Heya.
Yuma says sperm.
Omer says sperm. Welcome you to Wordle with Gaga.
Oscar says glide.
Gaga Grumps says Green I and E living at 3 and 5.
Grumps says not sperm. Grumps says at ms.lin welcome back.
Gaga Grumps says a like works.
Oscar says arise.
Welcome Laurie Hart hands to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says alives at number 1.
Welcome Ms. Lin to Wordle
Ms.
with
Lin
Gaga.
says aside.
Oscar says NVM.
Grumps says guess abide it is.
Gaga Grumps says no Arthur arise. Gaga Grumps says aside fits.
Oscar says abide.
Grumps says guess abide it is.
Ms. Lin says abide.
Gaga Grumps says abide for Wordle in 5.
Good game.
It's playtime!
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those doubles in the chat.
Don't let her lose! Grumps is on the buttons! Don't let him push yours! Are you ready to play? Let those stickers fly! Which team are you on? Team Gaga, give a cheer.
Gaga Grumps says doo-doo for Gaga. Share the live, chat the chat, and shower her with roses and GGs.
Gremlins, let's go! Gremlins, let's go! Team Gaga, Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps, are you steady? Gremlins, let's go!
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up next week.
Gremlins, let's go! Game! Gremlins, let's go! Game! Gremlins, let's go!
Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what
Welcome
letter will the
Jesper
wheel
Ergotet
choose?
to Wordle with
Predictions
Gaga.
in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. U. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens.
Welcome
the one
Isaac to
wearing
Wordle
the
with
crown at the
Gaga.
end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thong, race to the top, like a thon, tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will
Grump
be
says of Isaac
crowned
Hayes.
like a thon, gremlin renowned, like a thon, fingers on fire.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says hey there Isaac. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with you please Isaac.
Grumps says it high.
Isaac says under don't know any other word lol.
Gaga Grumps says under you got.
Grumps says that Isaac could be dating and go usurp.
Oscar says plans. Gaga Grumps says a yellow N in need of a home.
Ms. Lynn says saint.
Gaga Grumps says no plurals in Wordle Oscar. Gaga Grumps says Saint Fitz.
Welcome Annalise. Eat a Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says we added a homeless I to our N. Gaga Grumps says thanks for following Annalise.
Welcome Lex to Wordle with
Isaac says
Gaga.
index.
Thanks for the follow.
Isaac says NVM.
Gaga Grumps says N can't go there Isaac.
Muslin says login.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for following Lex.
Lex says pinch.
Gaga Grumps says pinch fits.
Lex says cinch finch.
Gaga Grumps says I and N live in 2 and 3 Wordle Street.
Isaac says bingo.
Gaga Grumps says can't be cinch or finch now. Gaga Grumps says bingo is a shout, full house.
Lex says lingo.
Welcome Arina Drain to Wordle with Gaga.
Isaac says lingo.
Gaga Grumps says we end in Ingo.
Miss Lynn says lingo.
Gaga Grumps says check for traps.
Grumps says at Larissa Joy welcome back.
Lex says only see the one option.
Gaga Grumps says I see lingo and jingo. 2 options, 2 guesses. We're good.
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Good game.
Will the fireworks fly? A random star chosen by fate. Play a part, it's a live date.
Gaga Grumps says do you do the daily word? I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results. Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily half while I set up the next grid.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Only in 3, a pretty sky.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart reps. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle.
Lex says reach.
Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. Z.
Lex says zebra.
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Grumps says it's Sophie High.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thon. Tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin rin.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Gremlins don't tire like a thon. Hearts beat flying like a thon. Gremlins defying.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your field
Welcome
stars.
Jazzy to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says hi there Jazzy.
Welcome me to Wordle
Gaga
with Gaga.
Grumps says your word starting with Z please Lex. Gaga Grumps says is it still zebra?
Lex says zebra.
Gaga Grumps says zebra you got.
Lex says algae.
Gaga Grumps says a yellow E and are in need of homes.
Isaac says cheat.
Gaga Grumps says algae fits.
Lex says dance.
Gaga Grumps says E lives at number 5 Wordle Street are still homeless. Gaga Grumps says indeed paste still works. Lex says chase.
PH7 says chase.
Isaac says haste.
Gaga Grumps says we added a homeless S. I must live at number 3.
Isaac says NVM.
Gaga Grumps says chase works.
Welcome Odin to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says we start with S.
Isaac says shave.
Lex says shake, shave, shade.
Lex says shake, shave, shade, shame.
Gaga Grumps says okay filter needs.
Thanks for the follow.
Lex says move. Leaves cave, nothing lights up.
Isaac says diver.
Gaga Grumps says find me a word that uses as many of those as possible. Gaga Grumps says moved is good.
Welcome Tomcar to Wordle with Gaga.
Thanks for the follow.
Gaga Grumps says shade it is.
Aiden says shade.
Welcome Hannah Whiteheart to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for following Tomcar.
Welcome Isabel to Wordle with Gaga.
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says and that was a masterclass in how not to lose at Wordle.
Welcome, Gremlins, to the game grotto. Welcome, Gremlins, to the game grotto. Welcome in, guys. Settle down. Grab your
Good game.
heartbeat. Share us round. Now tap that screen. Tap it, tap it. Tap that screen. Yeah, tap it, tap it. It's your warm.
Gaga Grumps says welcome Gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat, grab your daily heart, claim your points and prepare to play.
Game Gremlins on the scene. Oh, oh. Game Gremlins on the scene. Oh, oh. Game Gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen. Tap it, tap that screen. Yeah, tap it. Game Gremlins come and let's go.
Gaga Grumps says treasure box up if you need a coin for your daily
Tap that
heart.
screen. Yeah, tap it. Let's see those team stickers flow. Oh, oh. Game Gremlins on the scene. Oh, oh. Now tap that screen. Oh, oh.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next
Now
list.
tap that screen. Now tap that screen. Oh, oh. Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. P. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word. Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says you crashed the first like goal, awesome tapping. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with P, please Isaac.
Isaac says plain.
Welcome,
Gaga
Tia.
Grumps says
Booked
plain
up to
you got.
Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says a yellow are in need of a home.
Lex says maker.
Gaga Grumps says maker fits.
Tia Book Talk says after.
Tia Book Talk says Uno.
Gaga Grumps says we added a homeless E. Lex says decay.
Isaac says decay is a good shout.
Gaga Grumps says decay works.
Tia Book Talk says it on Reek, see there's an A.
Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says you know what time it is.
Explode 'em on her face, she's in a happy place. Fireworks for Gaga.
Isaac says firework time.
Wordle within 3, so gifts explode with glee. Fireworks for Gaga. Emojis make her happy, as in her face they slappy. Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says Wordle in 3. Let's see those fireworks. Gifts and emojis will explode on Gaga's face.
Will be okay. If you can, that's okay. Smileys in chat still win the day. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says
Welcome
if you haven't done it yet, grab your
BLSSOM.VXZ
daily
to
heart
Wordle
while
with
I set up
Gaga.
the next grid.
We would be honored if you would join us. We would be honored.
Blow
if
some,
you would join
BXC
us.
says hello.
Grumps says at BL0SM.VXZ higher.
Gaga Grumps says Blossom in the house.
Welcome Ava the Quaver to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart, Blossom and Tia.
Ava the Quaver says him back.
Some Z says letter predictions.
Welcome Sophie to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle.
Grumps says at Ava the Quaver welcome back.
Ava the Quaver says grump.
Ava the Quaver says Gaga.
Blow some BXZ says hello Grumps.
Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Blowsome BXZ says Y is hard, not many words.
Gaga Grumps says hey there Ava.
Ava the Quaver says Yowie.
Ava the Quaver says Yowie.
Gaga Grumps says wow that was behind lol. Ava the Quaver says Yayu.
Welcome Drewski to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. Why?
Lex says yacht.
Ava the Quaver says yoy.
Ava the Quaver says youth.
Ava the Quaver
Welcome
says
to Wordle with Gaga.
Blowsome BXZ says guys don't type yet, the one who taps the most gets to choose the first word.
Gaga Grumps says no need to spam. The like race picks the first word up.
Race to the top like a thon. Tap and don't stop like
Ava the Quaver says you.
be crowned like a thon. Gremlin renowned like a thon. Fingers on fire like
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Ava the Quaver says you.
Ava the Quaver says balls.
Ava the Quaver says you.
Welcome Jimmy to Wordle with Gaga.
Jimmy says hello Grumper and run your heart. Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Grumps says it Jimmy welcome back.
Gaga Grumps says Ava you're muted for a minute for spam.
Jimmy says that. Grumps, thank you.
BL0SSOMBXZ says guys don't spam or you'll be muted for a minute. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with Y please Sophie.
Ava the Quaver says so's.
Gaga Grumps says Jimmy in the house.
Ava the Quaver says youth.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart Jimmy.
Blowsome VXZ says Sophie you still here?
Tia Booktalk says young.
Gaga Grumps says youth you got.
It's a Wordle wipeout. No letters to shout.
Gaga Grumps says wipeouts in the chat.
Lost in the grid, can't figure it out.
Oh, Zombie XD says a blackout.
Isaac says Chad.
Blow some VXZ says Spear.
Welcome Sabrina to Wordle with Gaga.
VXZ says Spear.
Isaac says Spike.
PH7 says Quasi.
PH7 says Pilaf.
Isaac says Spike.
Usam VXZ says Spear.
Gaga Grumps says Spear fits.
PH7 says verse.
Isaac says Resty.
Wosam VXZ says rests.
Gaga Grumps says verse fits. Gaga Grumps says no plurals in Wordle Liam. Gaga Grumps says TTS is terrible today.
Welcome to Wordle with Gaga.
Isaac says share.
BL Osambi XD says rides.
Isaac says NVM.
Gaga Grumps says can't be sheer. Gaga Grumps says rides is plural.
BLO Som VXZ says Rised.
TH7 says Risen.
Gaga Grumps says resin works.
PH7 says risen.
Welcome Jake to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga is in the box.
Good game.
Don't let her lose. Grumps is on the buttons.
Good game.
Don't let him push
BLO
yours.
Zombie XD says at Gaga and Grumps it doesn't work.
Stickers fly.
Good game.
Which team are you on? Team Gaga, give a cheer.
PH7 says he is not second.
Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps, are you steady? Game. Gremlins, let's go.
Gaga Grumps says risen is
Let's
is.
go. Team Gaga, 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 Team Gaga,
Gaga Grumps says thanks for throwing the peanuts.
Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps, are you steady? Game. Gremlins, let's go.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Gremlins, let's go. Game. Gremlins, let's go.
Gaga Grumps says do the do for Gaga. Share the live, chat the chat and shower her with roses and GGs.
Gremlins, let's go.
Gaga Grumps says I've just turned TTS down to fan club only because it's lagging so badly. So make sure you do your heart me if you want voice. Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. Z again. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thun, tap and don't stop, like a thun, who will be crowned like
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with Z please Sabrina. Gaga Grumps says zebra you got. Gaga Grumps says a yellow E in need of a home.
Isaac says sheet.
Gaga Grumps says sheet fits and checks the E for 2 places.
Eggs and Bacon says tries.
Welcome Eggs and Bacon to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says E lives at number 4 and we have AT in need of a home.
Welcome Hey, I'm in your closet to Wordle with Gaga.
PH7 says totem.
Eggs and bacon says tried. Gaga Grumps says no Arthur tried. Gaga Grumps says Canby Street.
TH7 says totem.
Isaac says totem.
Gaga Grumps says totem works.
TH7 says token.
Gaga Grumps
Welcome
says
Jenna
close
to
but no
Wordle with
cigar.
Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says token is a great shout.
Welcome Nikki Sunshine to Wordle with Gaga.
Isaac says towel.
Gaga Grumps says towel is good too. Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Good game.
A Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga.
Good game.
The fireworks fly. A random star chosen by fate. Play a
Gaga
part,
Grumps says do you do the daily
it's a life
Wordle? I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results.
Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga.
Welcome all set to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next word.
Welcome NNACSN to Wordle with Gaga.
Get it in 3. It's do or die. Only in 3. A pretty sky. A Wordle with Gaga. A Wordle with Gaga. Da da da. A Wordle with Gaga.
Jenna 420 says heart.
Welcome Kian Nell to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says hi there, well nice to see you. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Eggs and bacon says top.
Jenna 420 says unity.
Eggs and bacon says under.
Gaga Grumps says the wheel is choosing awesomely today. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. U. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thumb, race to the top. Like a thumb, tap and don't stop. Like a thumb, who will be crowned?
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says second light goal crashed, great tapping. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with U, please, Jenna.
Jenna 420 says unity.
Gaga Grumps says unity you got. Gaga Grumps says a G Green Y lives at number 5.
Isaac says Siri.
Jenna 420 says peony.
Jenna 420 says nope NVM.
Gaga Grumps says let's give Celia a spin. Gaga Grumps says not valid.
Isaac says bruh lol.
Gaga Grumps says lol.
Welcome Cooper to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says hey there Cooper.
Jenna 420 says Chewy.
Gaga Grumps says Chewy fits. Gaga Grumps says no change. Gaga Grumps says how about palsy? Gaga Grumps says hi Amelia.
Jenna 420 says palsy is good.
Isaac says, yeah, let's go palsy.
Isaac says Sally. Jenna 420 says no tea.
Gaga Grumps says A and L live at Numas 2 and 3. S must live at 1. Gaga Grumps says Sally fits.
Good game.
Welcome Amelia to Wordle with Gaga.
Welcome Gremlins to the game grotto. Welcome Gremlins to the game grotto. Welcoming guys.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Share us round. Now tap that screen, tap it, tap it, tap that screen, yeah, tap it, tap it. It's your
Grumps says it Amelia Hay.
Gang Gremlins on the scene. Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says welcome Gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat, grab your daily heart, claim your points and prepare to play.
Now tap that screen, tap it, tap it.
Grumps says it Alison P. High.
Gang Gremlins come and let's go. Now tap that screen.
Kian Nell says I'm a power tapper.
Let's see those team stickers flow.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for following Amelia.
Now tap that screen.
Gaga Grumps says treasure box up if you need a coin for your daily heart.
Now tap that screen.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid.
Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Kian Nell says that's enough.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. P.
Kian Nell says that's enough.
Gaga Grumps says what's enough? Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Kian Nell says the likes.
Gaga Grumps says wow indeed you've been a god.
Like a thumb, race to the top.
Kian Nell says power.
Tap and don't stop like a thun. Who will be crowned like a thun?
Gaga Grumps says shame is a new race starting roll.
Fingers on fire like a thun. Gremlins don't tire like a thun.
Kian Nell says in Fast Tapper.
Gremlins define.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with P, please Grumps.
Grumps says piano.
Gaga Grumps says piano you got.
Welcomes Army to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says a yellow and O in need of homes. Gaga Grumps says hey there's Army. Nice you see you. Gaga Grumps says they can't go there for coast. Gaga Grumps says Stoat fits.
Welcome Swapsy to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says no change except eliminations.
Welcome Max Mayfield to Wordle
Max
with Gaga.
Mayfield says Happy Valentine's Day X.
Gaga Grumps says hey there Swapsy. Allow works. Gaga Grumps says hey Max. Thanks you too. Gaga Grumps says O lives at number 4. Gaga Grumps says Coco works. Gaga Grumps says a must live at number 2.
Swapsy says favor.
Kian Nell says aloha.
Swapsy says favor mayor majo.
Gaga Grumps says I see major and favor. I think we should do a high consonant filter.
Welcome Lenny to Wordle with Gaga.
Thanks for the follow.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for following Lenny. We need a consonant filter. Swapsy says fume.
Swapsy says frine.
Swapsy says go with.
Swapsy says rhyme.
Gaga Grumps says okays. Gaga Grumps says excellent filter. Gaga Grumps says merit is.
Welcome EAKD to Wordle with Gaga.
Swapsy says mayo.
It's playtime!
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Don't let her lose! Grumps is on the buttons! Don't let him push yours!
Good game.
Are you ready to play? Let those stickers fly! Which team are you on? Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you
Gaga Grumps says do the do for Gaga. Share the live, chat the chat, and shower her with roses and GGs. Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab the baby heart while I set up the next year. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. O. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Key and Nell says ozone.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thon. Tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will be
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
fingers on fire, like a thon. Gremlins don't tire, like a thon. Hearts beat flying, like a thon. Gremlins defying.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with O, please Grumps.
Grumps says at Eggs and Bacon, welcome back. Welcome Des team to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says Olive.
Gaga Grumps says Olive you got.
Grumps says it Des team high.
Gaga Grumps says wipeouts in the chat.
Grumps says I give up.
Eggs and Bacon says punks.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for following Pandelis. Gaga Grumps says syrups fits. Punks is plural. Gaga Grumps says we start with S and have a U in need of a home.
Welcome Chuffy to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says Snuckworks. Gaga Grumps says hey there Chuffy. Gaga Grumps says you lives at number 3.
Welcome AJ to Wordle with Gaga.
PH7 says shunt.
Eggs and Bacon says sauna.
Gaga Grumps says hi AJ.
Kian Nell says stum.
Gaga Grumps says if your word is being filtered try, I'd like word.
PH7 says swung.
Gaga Grumps says Stunworks.
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Wordle with Gaga.
Good game.
Wordle with Gaga. Will the fireworks fly?
Gaga Grumps says can you do the daily Wordle? I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results.
It's a live day. Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid.
Get it in 3. It's do or die. Only in 3.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart, eggs and bacon. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle.
Eggs and Bacon says Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. P again.
Grumps says again.
Eggs and Bacon says prize.
Gaga Grumps says sorry for the earworm, not haha. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Eggs and Bacon says prize prune prong.
Like a thong, race to the top, like a thon. Tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin renowned, like a thon. Fingers on fire, like a thon.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Flying like a thon. Gremlins defying.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with P, please, Kian.
Welcome Nyla Heart Hands to Wordle with
Gaga
Gaga.
Grumps says hi there, Nyla. Gaga Grumps says if your word is being filtered, try I'd like word. Gaga Grumps says Kian, you too busy tapping?
Eggs and Bacon says prize prune.
Kian Nell says you can say that again, getting you to 40k. Gaga Grumps says I need a P word from you, Kian.
Kian now says panda.
Gaga Grumps says panda you got. Gaga Grumps says and thank you for all the likes.
Kia Nell says no problem.
Gaga Grumps says P and are in need of new homes. Gaga Grumps says thanks for the rose, Kian.
Eggs and Bacon says apples.
Gaga Grumps says or just apply.
Kia Nell says it's for Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says P lives at number 2. A and E are homeless. Gaga Grumps says at Key and Nell. Gaga Grumps says Spearworks.
Eggs and Bacon says speak.
Welcome ALIYAH to Wordle with Gaga.
Kia Nell says speak.
Gaga Grumps says and got is so near to fireworks. Gaga Grumps says hi Aaliyah. Speak it.
Welcome, Gremlins, to the game grotto. Welcome, Gremlins, to the game grotto. Welcome in, guys. Settle down. Grab your heart.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Tap that screen, yeah, tap it. It's your warm-up routine. Game Gremlins
Eggs and Bacon says get ready for World with Gaga.
Game Gremlins on the scene. Game Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says welcome Gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat, grab your daily
Welcome Anya to
claim
Wordle
your
with
points
Gaga.
and
Now
prepare to
tap
play.
that screen. Tap it. Tap that screen, yeah, tap it. Game Gremlins, come and let's go. Now tap that screen. Tap it. Tap that screen, yeah, tap it. Let's see
Gaga
those
Grumps
teams
says
take
treasure box up if you need a coin for your daily pass.
Game Gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen. Now tap that screen.
We would be honored if you would
Gaga
join
Grumps
us.
says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily half while I set it for next week.
Welcome Saint to Wordle with Gaga.
Game Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart Sant. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. I.
Kian Nell says irony.
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Welcome my diamond art to Wordle with Gaga.
Like a thon, tapping don't stop like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin renowned.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Gremlins don't tire like a thon. Hearts beat flying like a thon. Gremlins defying.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for following my diamond art. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says fourth like goal smashed your fingers.
Welcome hello, it's Abigail to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says treasure box is open.
Gaga Grumps says your word starting with I please Kian. Gaga Grumps says hi Abigail. Kian won the first word.
Welcome Crystal to Wordle with Gaga.
Kian now says ideally.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Kian Nell says India.
Gaga Grumps says ideal you got, cause ideally too many letters. Gaga Grumps says Crystal in the house with the heart me thanks.
Crystal says lease.
Gaga Grumps says yellow EA and L in need of homes.
Says lapel.
Gaga Grumps says leaf fits. Gaga Grumps says E and alive at 2 and 3 Wordle Street. L must live at 4.
Welcome Evie to Wordle with Gaga.
Thanks for the follow.
Says Eels.
Gaga Grumps says heels is plural.
Sane says dealt.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for following Abigail.
Crystal says heels.
Gaga Grumps says dealt works.
Welcome Tilda, Whitney Tilda to
Crystal says
Wordle with
deals.
Gaga.
Says no D.
Crystal says no D.
Says no.
Gaga grumps says L moved into number 4.
Welcome Yakin Colbert to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps says oopsie.
It's playtime! Gaga is in
Welcome
the
Pink
Gaga
Heart, Pink
grumps
Heart,
says
Mama
well
Cat, Pink Heart, Pink Heart to Wordle with Gaga.
Grumps is on the buttons! Don't let him push yours! Are you ready to
Good
play?
game.
Let those stickers fly! Which team are you on? Team
Good
Gaga,
game.
give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here?
Gaga grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Gremlins, let's go! Gremlins, let's go! Team Gaga, 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 Gaga,
Grumps says it Crystal, welcome back.
give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps, are you steady? Gremlins, let's go!
Gaga grumps says Dooba Gaga. Share the live chat for chat and shower her with roses and GGs.
Gremlins, let's go! Game! Gremlins, let's go!
Gaga grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next room.
Crystal says thank you.
Gaga grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Welcome May Smallwood to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps says we are starting with A. K. Gaga grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thumb, race to the top. Like a thumb, tap and don't stop. Like a thumb, who will be crowned? Like a thumb, gremlin.
Gaga grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Gremlins don't tire like a thun. Hearts beat flying like a thun. Gremlins defying.
Gaga grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with K please Crystal.
Crystal says knifex.
Gaga Grumps says knife you got. Gaga Grumps says E lives at number 5 Wordle Street. F needs a new home.
Welcome Harpy the third to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says hi there Harpy. Gaga Grumps says how about frame?
Crystal says flute.
Gaga Grumps says flute fits too. Gaga Grumps says F moved into number 1.
Crystal says frame.
Gaga Grumps says frame for fireworks. Gaga Grumps says Wordle say no.
Welcome Millar to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says force is a good shout.
It's playtime! Gaga is in the box!
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Grumps is on the buttons! Don't let him push yours! Are you ready to play? Let those stickers fly!
Good game.
Which team are you on? Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps, are you steady? Game! Gremlins, let's go!
word got at Grumps.
Gaga Grumps says okay, let me pull up the last code of the day.
Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says thank you for coming, Kian. This will be my last game anyway. Gaga Grumps says woot, thanks for the corgi crystal. Gaga Grumps says I'm being spoilt again. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Welcome Rai to Wordle with
We
Gaga.
would be honored if you would join us.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. V.
Crystal says so close.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thun, tap and don't stop, like a thun, who will be crowned like a thun, gremlin rin.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Gremlins don't tire like a thun, hearts be flying like a thun, gremlins defying.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with V, please Rai.
Rory says Vito.
Welcome Saeed ZHIR to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says Vita you got. Gaga Grumps says hi Syed. Gaga grumps says yellow tea and are in need of homes.
Worry says adopt.
Gaga grumps says adopt fits.
Welcome Jack to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps says we added a yellow O. Gaga grumps says today no longer fits. Rai says tango. Gaga grumps says tango works. Gaga grumps says well we honed all our yellows.
Rorai says taboo.
Gaga grumps says oh good shout. Gaga grumps says taboo for Wordle in 4.
Good game.
Gaga grumps says GG gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat. Gaga grumps says thanks for joining me to play Wordle. I will be back at 4 PM UK tomorrow for more Wordle with Gaga. Gaga grumps says do the daily Wordle. I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results.